So today is the Do Tell multi-generational brunch.
And what are you most excited about for this conversation?
I'm most excited about hearing other stories, other experiences. I think we live in a world, not even because of 2020, but I think for me, because of everything that happened in 2020, locally and nationally, it just reminded me about the importance to really lean in and have deep understanding of other people. I think sometimes when it comes to perspective taking, we can get tunnel vision and think that our own ways of being are the only way. I've never been one to be like that, but I think I'm most excited about hearing other stories and learning and having deep conversations.
Hi, my name is Dawn Freeman, and I am a board member with ZAMI NOBLA. And what I am doing is I am warming up some naan bread, some samosas, and I made some lentils with zucchini, potatoes, carrots, onions, garlic, and lots of love. And I am going to warm up some basmati rice for the Do Tell conversation in Nashville, Tennessee, 2024.
Nice.
Hello, I'm Angela Henderson. She, her pronouns. I am a member of Southerners on New Ground, or SONG as we like to call ourselves, and we're a Southern Regional LGBTQ organization that spans the South and that works across different intersections of race, class, gender, all those things, elements. And yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
My name is Valeria Davis. I am a Black woman of African descent. She and her are my pronouns.
Awesome. And what are you excited about for today's conversation?
I'm excited about connecting with other Black women and just really listening and hearing and understanding and connecting with them about their lived experiences. And I'm just excited about building some new relationships as well as learning from one another.
Awesome. Okay. Are you?
My name is Denise Johns.
And what are you excited about for today's conversation?
Just kind of getting into advocating for our community. I am a big component of it, and I didn't realize until I started looking at my emails how much stuff I'm into advocating, especially for the African American community and structural racism. I've been doing that nationally for the last year. Outside of that, the last 8 years, I have been in Cancer Alliance research.
My name is Ronnie McGregory. I am 52. I'm originally from Michigan. I moved down to the Nashville area about 14 years ago.
Awesome. And what are you looking forward to today?
Just an interesting conversation about, especially being 52, learning more about how others in the similar age bracket are feeling about life, their bodies, these aches and pains, weight loss journey and weight gain journey. So I'm just excited to learn more about others and express how I'm feeling as well.
Shout out the sponsors, ZAMI NOBLA, the National Organization for Black Lesbians on Aging, as well as BEAM, Black Emotional Mental Health. We just want to say gratitude to these organizations for giving us an opportunity to be intentional and having dialogue that maybe we don't get to have every day, right? Before we get started, I do want to go over a few norms. Even though I know we all intentional about community, intentional about, speaking our truth, I think it's important that we do that in a safe way. So a few norms: take space, make space. And so if you're somebody that maybe is normally kind of quiet, like sitting a cut, we really want you to lean in. We want to hear your voice, right? And so that's make space. Take space. And if you're someone who normally is like the leader of the group, always your voice heard, then make space so that we can hear from everyone's perspective, right? Listen to understand. So I think we're wired as just as people to listen to reply, but making sure that, even though somebody may say something that sparks something in us, still suspend your comments so we can really make sure that that person gets their full thought out, and we want to make sure we're intentional and listen to understand. Of course, respect. As much as possible, yes, talk from your lived experience. So as much as possible, use I statements. Want anybody from your past or your present feel like they're targeted or anything like that, but use I statements as much as possible. So I think sometimes when you think about a safe space, people think that being safe doesn't mean that you can't be brave, but contribute to a brave and a safe space. And what I mean by that is that, like, be authentic. Maybe even we can challenge each other, and it's okay to challenge each other, but in this affirming way, if that makes sense. And I guess that's all the norms I have. Are we good with those norms? Anybody need any clarity on that? No? Clear? Okay. Well, again, and thank y'all so much for being here. Also, thank you to our videographer, Talisa Elliott, and thank you to our photographer, Lisa Dowdy, for being in the space. We appreciate their contribution as well. So I'm gonna just start this with the first question. Whoever wants to start, and then we'll popcorn it. Cool? So when you think about how you identify and how you would describe your sexual orientation, what words do you use to describe your sexual orientation when speaking about who you love or who you feel attracted to? So I'm going to say that again. Thinking about how you identify, what words would you use to describe your sexual orientation when speaking about who you love or who you feel attraction to? And anybody could start.
I'll go. So I identify myself as a lesbian. I love women. I don't. Yeah, just mostly that I'm a lesbian and that I'm okay and comfortable with telling people that, I love women. That's. And I don't have to have a specific title for a woman. But yeah, I identify as a lesbian.
I would say I identify as a lesbian as well, but I also I guess, because of my work with youth over the last 20 years or something, I also identify as queer, but I know for me, historically, I've only dated other women. There have been some women that I've dated who are now men, and I still love them, but there's not like that romantic connection necessarily. But I would say I'd be open to it maybe. I haven't had that experience yet, but I'd be open to it. So I would say lesbian and queer.
Cool.
I thought you said who. I was like, thanks. Put me on blast.
I identify as lesbian and queer. I am attracted to people that I make heart space with. And so I'm really pretty open, but it's all about connection and heart and energy that really attracts me to people. And so
I guess that's, pretty broad, but that's pretty much how I could define how I identify.
I guess I'll go next. I identify as lesbian early on in life, and I think I've always known I've loved women since probably kindergarten teacher. I mean, I knew, but I think the environment I was in, like a heterosexual household, kind of drew me to like having the feeling that I had to be with men, which I really didn't care for. So in that, I had a child whose father wasn't financially he wasn't there, but for the most part, if I called him and said, "Hey, I need you to take her or watch her," that was never an issue. But as I was growing into myself and really understanding that, like my mother said, ain't nobody paying your bills but you, ain't nobody doing this, so why should you care about what anyone else thinks? So once I really kind of got over that, I really started dating women and loving women, and not really open to anything but cisgender women. Not cisgender women, but women, naturally born women. So I can't say women as a whole because I don't know if I could date a trans woman. So I would say just a naturally born biological woman is what my natural attraction is to.
Oh, me up. Am I the only one left?
No.
No, she is. Okay, you go.
Okay, text me. Yeah, I think for me, I tend to not be so, like, I am this thing, but also sometimes I'm like, maybe I do, maybe, what's the benefit? But anyways, I think I get drawn towards queer. I'm 29 at this point, and I think first started learning the language of queer in a different kind of context than maybe I had thought about it as. I didn't think about it much as a super young person, but I kind of like queer and lesbian. But I think lesbian to me, like, I think the way that I think about gender and sexuality is, it is this fluid thing, but also like the way that I've thought about attraction has evolved since, I was 18, and first feeling these feelings towards other people. And so for me, I feel like I can't say anything, like I can't be attracted to any person, period. But I think for me, it's been a journey of like, I knew that what I was expected to be attracted to as a young person, or like, when you're gonna bring like a boyfriend home, or when that kind of thing. And then I was like, I'm not that, so I don't want to be put in that box. And then I was kind of like, okay, let me express myself in this way and like attracted to women and da 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 da. But then I'm like, I don't know if that's my authentic truth either. So at this point, I think I just go with queer. I could be attracted to anybody, but I think I'm attracted to women and feminine spirit and that kind of thing. So that's where I land.
I have a comment related to that before we get to Denise while you're thinking. Is that okay? When you're thinking about, I could really resonate with what you're saying around even identifying with queer, because even growing up in my high school, I was probably one of the few people who were out, right? And I can remember two people, one person who probably should have been arrested. This is when the Green Hills Library was right on the campus of the Green Hills Mall, and there was an older, probably a retired white male worker, and he used to see us going to the library like for years, even when I was in middle school, and when we went to high school in the same area, and he would literally watch us, and he would masturbate while he would watch us going to the library, and I would always say something, and he was like, who cares? You damn queer, you damn queer, you damn queer. Because I've always been a tomboy, more masculine presenting, right? And he's just kind of like, don't worry about what I'm doing, but you're a queer, you know? I'm like, you're like masturbating to kids. This ain't right, you know what I mean? And then somebody else that I went to high school with, we actually were in this club, and he'd always call me, he'd be like, oh, you're a queer. But it's crazy because here we are, 25 some odd years later, and he is now out, right? And so it's just interesting how, like, in the 90s, what it meant to be queer, and now queer is like a positive thing, for some communities. And so I feel like I'm kind of embracing that, right? So, anyway.
That's a loaded question for me. I think ever since I was 6 or 7 years old, my earliest memory, most people, if you're from here, it was a place called Farmers Market. And I was in my car, your parents used to keep you in the car. They'd be like, stay in the car, and we'll be watching the window, and this is one woman, she walked by, and she had this beautiful afro, and she had this stud walk on her, and at 6 years old, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is fine. And my mom gave them all kind of names, this, the other, but I'm like in awe, so identifying myself is really hard because I come from a generation, I'm over 50, so I come from a generation where it wasn't really labeled, but labels put on you. The people I guess I gear towards to finding romantic relationships with are dominant women. I just love it. I just love the active portion of them. I love the athletic. I love the dominance that they present, the female dominance that they present. I think it's very attractive when they step up where I can step down and not have to be the one that's always stepping up to the challenge. So that's pretty much, I wouldn't label myself because I think I don't have a label, because I would date a person that's dominant.
Do you think that part of that, would you thinking about as someone who's more masculine presenting, but I don't identify as a stud, right? And if anything, I'm a dainty tomboy, right? And I think in my lived experience, especially recently, getting on the apps and things like that, which is its own interesting experience, right? But even having some person be like, one person like, oh, what? I thought you'd be a thug. It's like, what? One, like, why is that cute to anybody, really, in my opinion? Two, like, I know in my lived experience, I've had a lot of people I've dated or interested in me, like, put a box on, like, you're the man. I'm like, there is no man. We're two women. What are you talking about? And then secondly, it's like, yeah, I'm more masculine presenting, but like, I like back rubs. I want to be taken out, like, and so I'm just curious, I guess like a sub question related to that. Can you talk about your experiences in your identity, especially how you identify and like any kind of pushback, or maybe even how it made you become even more deeply rooted in yourself because of like perceptions or misperceptions that people have around like your identity and expectations?
Well, I think with my identity with myself, I like to be prissy. So if you don't want to be a prissy girl, then you're gonna have to step it up, because I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be wearing the heels, and if I need your help to help me down, hey, You know, I'm right here. You put these heels on, walk down this hill. You know, so so that's how I feel. And I'm like, I just like to be, you know, I cater too. And don't get me wrong, any person, whether you're dom or female, still needs that catering too. You still need the back rub. You still need the nurturing. You still need that overwhelming respect of saying, okay, I see you. You're present. And you have, you know, I want that person to be themselves. Number one. If this is something how you present, that's how you present. But if this is something that I like and I want in someone, that's what I like and that's what I want. That's my preference. But I have no qualm about, you know, any type of, you know, a masculine presenting female. You know, I don't have any qualms about that. That's not nothing that I'm like, oh, no. But it's what my personal preference is, you know, open the door for me from time to time. I'll open the door for you if you need. You know, so I'm a feminine female. Hands down.
For me, I've dated both. I've dated stud one, or an aggressive, whom is now transgender, and I've dated feminine women. I love women. I don't care like what you got. As long as I'm attracted to your energy, your heart, you know, there's some type of connection. It doesn't matter to me, you know, whether, you know, you're feminine or not.
That's a good question because talking about feminine energy, like my natural is more, you know, what I, you know, obviously it's natural is kind of what you see first. You know, so you see something or someone, you're like, oh, okay, you know, she's pretty or she's whatever. So for me personally, like I think I see, you know, a feminine woman, but they could, like, so my partner is very feminine woman, but she probably has more masculine energy than me, like all day long. You know, like she the kind of person like, you know, you come in the house and you like, well, dang, who cooked? And it's probably me, because she probably is like, well, shoot, I got, you know, when you look in the freezer, we got a bunch of BS in the freezer that she done bought that you would, you know, when you think about, if you think about traditional gender roles, right, and if you place that in our relationship, then you would say, okay, Ronnie don't cook, Ronnie don't clean, Ronnie don't do none of that, and Brandy does da. But it actually is very different. You know, her energy, even on how she feels about things. You know, I'm all like, you know, like, oh my gosh, you don't feel like, she was like, nah, And I'm like, well, damn, you know, like, I'm crying about this because, you know, like, oh my God, it was deep. And she's like, I'm just not, you know, feeling that. So, definitely feminine energy can come from both a masculine presenting woman and vice versa for a feminine presenting woman of whether, you know, LGBTQ, AI plus. So, you know, I don't know if what you look like per se is always what you're going to get.
Absolutely not.
Judging a book by its cover.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this when my very first time that I went to DC, it was just like mind blowing because I went up there with the Southern mentality, Southern way, and I go up there and it's like two feminine girls together, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what? Like then I'm over 50, I'm dating myself a little bit, but I was like, oh my God, what's going on? But then as I start to really look at the relationship, you have two feminine women, but one is more masculine. But they look the same, but their energies are like opposite. So it's like, I get it.
So a few people answered this in a way, but can you share a pivotal moment in history or personal experience that significantly impacted your understanding of your acceptance of your identity? I'm gonna do that again. Can you share a pivotal moment in history or personal experience that significantly impacted your understanding or acceptance of your identity?
Acceptance by anybody?
Or maybe even acceptance for yourself. So, I mean, I think about, for me, a lot of different moments that made me, like, say, you know what, let me be proud of who I am in my own skin, even across like all my identity markers. But I think really it was ZAMI, when they're previously known as focused on the Audre Lorde Scholarship Fund, and I was fortunate enough to receive that scholarship 3 times. And the first time I was like 20 or 19 at TSU, and I remember I wanted to start a GSA there, and the director there said, "Oh, we don't have any students like that here." And I was like, "I'm here, like, what you mean, right?" And so it's different things around my identity, and I think it wasn't until it was just whole affirming experience where they used to fly all the scholarship recipients to Atlanta. You meet your donor. You have an opportunity to highlight and share your gifts. I shared some poems, but it's able to see all these different diverse Black professionals who were tangible, right? Who would give you advice or just have really honest conversations with you. And I think that was one of the first of many moments where I felt affirmed to be an out Black lesbian, right? And so that's just one of many moments. That's what comes up for me. And not just because they're one of the what do you call it? Sponsors. Like real talk. Like that's something that has carried me. I can't even tell you, even now at 44, I still feel that energy, that feeling of love who I am, be who you are, be around people who more than just a mirror, but say like, stay grounded in who you are and be proud. Like unflinching,
From my experience, I don't really have like a designated time or, real true experience, but I started noticing my language change. So like when I used to talk about my relationships, I used to say they and would never like say she, and I used to feel very uncomfortable with the language that I would use when I would talk about my relationships with other people. And so then I just made a decision one day to start saying she. And then that turned into me taking up space within my job. So they had an LGBTQ plus event at another nonprofit organization that's here in Nashville, and we were there receiving a training. And so then I finally stepped out and was like, my girlfriend. And then that led to me acknowledging that I was engaged. And then, so it was like a ripple effect that kind of like evolved over time, where I started to develop the comfort within myself of like naming how I identified or what was very important to me and the people that were really important to me in my life. And then I also had to have an additional conversation with my mother. I didn't come out until I was 26. And at that point I had said I was bisexual. But then parts of that, I felt uncomfortable with that when I was talking to her, but I just did that because I really cared about what she, I was like, I don't want to say I'm this and then freak you completely out. But I'm just going to say I'm bisexual. And so then we revisited another conversation where she had taken a lot of ownership of having to take up that space and like announce to the whole family that this is what, she felt a lot of pressure. And so then I was like, no, Mom, that's not for you to carry. And I remember telling her that, this is my experience. This is for me to carry and for me to share with other people. And so to the question, like, I just think that it's just been an evolving process. Even now that I'm now 38 years old, I'm always looking for opportunity for me to name fully, like, how I identify or who I am. Or, when people make corrections, because everybody always assumes that I'm with a man or that I'm married to a man. And I always have to say, no, my wife. And it's a constant kind of underlying little shatter I feel in my voice. But I know that as I continue to practice and put it in practice, that I feel even more comfortable over time. So
So yeah, that's from my experience.
I have two. Sorry. I didn't come out until I was 29. I'm 52, and so I was still living in Ohio. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and I had a big birthday party, my 30th birthday party at my house, and I invited my family, all my closest friends. I cooked, and it snowed on that day too. April 29th it snowed, and nobody said, like, nobody, you know, I was like expecting people to be like, okay, she's got this girlfriend here, you know, and nobody said anything, and I was just, I mean, I didn't care about how my family felt, you know, I don't know what they were gonna say or how they were gonna feel, but it was just like, wow, like, this is cool, you know, everybody is comfortable, everybody is, you know, and that's how I wanted it to be, but it was just like, wow. And then the second thing was, I moved here in 2002. I had never been to Pride, and that's when Pride was at Centennial, and it was just like, wow, you know, like, I'm doing this, like, I'm not turning back, I'm not saying they, or, you know, them, or, you know, I'm dating a lady, I'm a lesbian, you know, and so those were the two points for me of coming out and just being like, wow, I get to live an authentic life.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot comes up with this question actually, because I don't know, I think about, you just mentioned Pride and like things like that growing up. I'm like, okay, this is the thing. You know, I can go here and be myself. And then you know, when my first Pride, I believe was in San Francisco. And I was like, this is the worst. It did not feel comfortable there just because of like how big and corporatized it was, and everyone was like, I remember someone being like, get your gay water, $5, gay, it was a water bottle, you know. Gay water $5. And so that was, you know, I was younger and I went to school like out of the South, and you know, I grew up going to school in Nashville, and so for me, like, I just was like, this is my environment as a young person, and I'm still figuring things out. It's more like, as I build trust with people, then it's like, oh, this is just a part of my life, and not being like this thing where it's like, let me make this announcement when I don't even know how I would like define or label myself at the time. But I think the point of acceptance came, you know, because in school it's like, okay, great, it's plenty of like spaces where you can, I was on a rugby team, you know, so it was like, you be yourself, figure it out, great. But I felt that this feeling about like Tennessee and the South, and you know, I had some family that was in the Bay Area, so I was like, I'll just, you know, I'm gonna figure it out, I'm gonna move out, I don't wanna go back to the South, because I wanna be able to just, it not be a big deal, you know, whatever I choose to do with my life. But actually coming into the organization that I'm with now, Southerners on New Ground, when I first discovered they existed, because they're a LGBTQ-based liberation organization that is based in the South, and when I was like blown away at the existence, and this was maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I was just kind of like very ignorant to think, like, to have these conceptions of the South and what it means to be like lesbian, gay, trans, queer in the South, bisexual. And I ended up doing a cohort that was like a leadership development cohort for Black LGBTQ people in the South. And we had to go to this place called Franklinton Center, which is in North Carolina. It's historic land that a lot of movement organizations go to meet, gather, and it was formerly a plantation where they would go and bring enslaved people to like break them. So the land itself, it was just a lot of things coming together when I traveled there for the first time to be a part of this cohort. but the land was reclaimed as well. And the formerly enslaved people then built like schools and took over the land, and now today it's like this historic center. But anyways, when I arrived, it was this feeling of extreme welcome. The co-director at the time, Mary Hooks, was the first face I saw going in to the building, and then I just remember there being a room full of it was like 50 Black queer and trans people from all different corners of the South, and it was just such a feeling of like welcome, like this is my people, this I can be here, you know, like these are my people. So that was a moment of like acceptance of not just one element of my identity or any of that, but just being able to bring my whole self into a space and be okay with it.
Ashe, what position did you play? Right.
I was passed around a lot. I started off as a lock. If y'all, I don't know how much y'all familiar with rugby.
I played for Nashville. I was a winger.
You did?
Yeah.
You was a winger? A winger. Okay. Yeah, I was in the forwards and then I was in the back. But we don't need to go down the rabbit hole.
Gotcha. I was just curious. But anybody else have any thoughts on the question?
For me, it's kind of weird because my family lived elsewhere. So when I went to college and I stayed, my, close family lives elsewhere. So I was just kind of, doing my thing. I never really felt like I needed to say, okay, this is, I'm, a lesbian. I had women around, and it really wasn't until, so Bernaya is going to be 16 in May, so it was probably when she was around 5 or 6, so maybe 9 years ago. I'm just gonna say 9 just because I'm not exactly sure. We were in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and my dad owned a restaurant. And so he's always been around Bernaya, always been around Brandy. It just, I guess I never really introduced her as nobody. You know what I'm saying? I never was like, oh, this is, she just was, there. No one said anything. It's like they treated her like family. It was never a spoken thing until I walked into the restaurant, and it was us three. We walk in, and my dad's like, can you come back here real quick? And I said, okay. So we're walking back toward the bathroom, and he's looking at me. He's like, I got something to tell you. And I was like, what? I'm like you pulled me to the side. What? He was like, I'm gay. And I was like, you're gay? And he's like, no, that's what you should be telling me. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh my God. And then so he, gave me a hug and was like, he's like, we love you regardless of, but I think they just, I don't know why people just need to hear it. I don't know if that's their thing, it's not my thing,
Right.
Like I'm not hiding it, but why do you need to hear it so bad? Why is that so important for them? But in the other hand, if I was in a heterosexual relationship, I might have walked in saying, this is my boyfriend, this is my man, my man, my man, my man. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? So that's just how people, But, so that's, I don't know. So on the other hand, maybe that is, I have a sister, but we didn't grow up we grew up in separate homes, and we weren't, they didn't really come around us too often. My dad had kids prior to my parents getting married. But, so I was in the house basically with a boy. So, my brother, I don't even remember my brothers really come to me about, this is my girl, whatever. But, so the fact that I never really said anything, it was more crazy for them, not that it was for me. But I think at that moment I realized, like, okay, should I be saying something? Okay, now I see, I don't have to wonder if you're feeling some kind of way because you're fine. You're fine. If that's what you needed, then great.
I think I can spin off on that too, because mine's been similar. I've never told anybody that about my lifestyle. It's just I've always just presented it. It's just like this is me, this is it, you know. But I did when I first bought my first girlfriend. My sister seen her. My sister seen her, she was like, hold up. So my sister is like this big blabbermouth. She go tell my grandmother, my mom, my aunties. I have a huge family now. It's like on one side of my family is 15 people, the other side is 13, and everybody knew almost in one day. And so I was in one.
Wow.
So I never came out because I didn't have to because my sister did it. But I never was like, okay, this is what it is. I just, if you're who I'm dating, come on, we're gonna go to a family event, you know, and I'm still, you know, touching you or whatever. I'm presenting that you're mine. I'm not telling you, hey, this is mine right here. You know, I've never done that, so I don't feel the need to address that. In it. To me, it's like it's none of your business what I do. But if you see something, you perceive it. You can perceive all you want to do, you know. But I know who I am and how I'm happy with my choice. So I'm not living for you. I'm living for me. So no matter what, and it was crazy because my grandmother, you know, pulled me to the side. She's like, "How you been?" I was like, I said, what are you talking about, Granny? She was like, it's okay, honey. I did that before a long time ago, but it's okay. You can get over it. You know, it's like it's a phase or something. So I was like, okay. I was like, and I just left it at that. So my life as it is now is, I'm not telling you anything unless you know me. It's none of your business, and that's that way at work, in society. Because I present as a very feminine female that looks like I'm straight, you know, and I got guys hitting on me, and so, but the women don't, but just the guys hitting on me. But I have guys hitting on me, so it's like, okay, whatever, you know. So I don't even think anything twice about it, because it's like, it's just, you know, I accept me for who I am, and as long as I know my truth, I really don't care about what you think about me and what you present as my truth. You know, that's your own business. You stay in your own lane. That's me.
So, I mean, makes me think about, thinking about, like, yes, like, our sexuality is one part of who we are. Again, just one part. I know for me personally, like, yes, been out since, I guess, my sophomore year in high school. But I don't think it's important to go into spaces because I know some people, I love how today's generation is so just like, I'm queer, I'm trans, I'm like, but it's like, for example, I dated somebody for a hot second who every time they introduce themselves, it could be, we're going to a library, we're at dinner, and the waiter, oh, I'm X, and I am a trans masculine queer Latina, da 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 da. It's just like, do we have to do all that? Do we have to do all that? You know, and when I meet people, I don't say I'm a black lesbian, and I'm, you know. Like,
can I take your order?
What's going on? And so I love how it's important, you know, where society is now, especially with young people, that they can be their full selves. But it makes me think about our next question around identity markers, right? And thinking about in your daily life, how do you navigate the intersections of your identity? Whether it's, you know, thinking about race, gender, ability status, socioeconomic status. How do you navigate that so that, you know, just like how do those identity markers impact you? I know for me, I kind of talked a little bit about, the space we live in, and people so like, you got to tell your whole bio. I don't need to do that. And plus, who I'm attracted to or who I have relationships with, that's only one part of me, right? But as a black woman working in, you know, counseling, working in education, you know, there are different things that are questioned around my intelligence or things like that. And then
Some of you know, and some of you may not know. So I got hit. I was in a bad car accident in '05. So I got a severe traumatic brain injury. Sustained a lot of injuries. It's technically a lifelong injury, right? And so I learned so much about. I never considered, even though I was a community organizer when I was younger, around disability rights and like why things around getting disability income and things like that are so hard to get until I went through different things myself. And so for me, as someone who was differently abled in some ways, I guess technically it's lifelong, even though I'm pretty much asymptomatic, I think being differently able, being a Black woman and being a lesbian is like always at the forefront of my mind, right? And for me, I think I advocate a lot for children in exceptional ed, and just like even around just little ways that we talk to each other, how things can be perceived around, could be a microaggression, you know, and in my own way checking people, even people I love, like, hey, you know, what you said was wrong, or I'm gonna call you out on that because that's not right, or whatever. So I think it allows me to think about how language can be used to affirm, as well as language can tear us down. And I've been real intentional to make sure it affirms, for the most part. Not saying I get it right all the time, but I think about, that's what I navigate daily, just around how we normalize hurt in language. And that shouldn't be the case when we think about identity markers. Now, doesn't mean that we necessarily need to like tiptoe around identity, like, oh, this person is this, so let's be careful. But I think it's just important to just be aware of where people sit in terms of the social location, and making sure our language is affirming. So that's what I think about daily.
I think with me, because of the field that I am in, being a Black woman in a predominantly white male field, and I think it too holds on to the reason why I don't say anything about my identity and who I am. Because of security, for one. I'm in disclosed locations sometimes with several white men, and it's just me. And so some of those things right there, I feel that my identity to tell you or show you who I am doesn't mean too much more the safety of myself. When I look at how I identify with society as a person, I'm an advocate. And I advocate for Black people awareness around healthcare. And that's one of the things that I feel like does us a disservice, especially Black women. It does us a disservice when we do not know how to talk to our doctors, or, you know, either educating our doctors on us in general. That's the thing that I advocate the most about. So if someone comes to me and asks, hey, you know, Denise, what do you think about, you know, such and such getting cancer? I'm like, okay, well, look, just let's dive deep into it, and let's get her the help she needs, and finding ways to help people out. So I would say my personal stance about things is that I advocate for people, and that's advocating through either health, through art, through appreciation, through lifting. I believe every woman and everyone needs to have that person in their life that advocates for them when you can. So that's what I would say about myself.
I would say to piggyback off of that, I also work in, and I have for a long time, worked with white males, cisgender white males, and kind of what you said, kind of felt unsafe to say who I was, where they're in spaces where they're like, oh my God, amongst themselves, like, shoot, look at such, you know, she fine, you know, and make little remarks where I've kept quiet to myself. That's not. I mean, I don't think that those were some of the environments that I wanted to open up about anything about myself. Where I am now and not only because of that, but just even because I've been in sales for a long time, but I've been killing them in sales. You know what I'm saying? Like killing them. So then they already hate me because I'm a black woman. Killing them. Now if I say that, then it's then it's gonna be something. And I've just the last 2 jobs that I've had have been very, very safe spaces where, to the recruiter, like, okay, tell me about yourself, you know what, I have a partner, she, oh, okay, that those welcome. I think it took a long time, being in my 50s to finally be able comfortable to say, and then also comfortable in those white environments that those particular white men that I work with, they want to hear about, well, Ryan, how'd you get into that account? What did you do to, want me to succeed? They're not only pushing me, but they're assisting me. Whereas other places that they just like, it's about a number, and we really don't care for you anyway. But they're embracing me, and I don't feel that if it comes up, and it hasn't really come up this where I'm at now. But if it comes up, like, hey, no one really kind of talks about their family too much because we travel a lot. We don't go into an office. Mm-hmm. But I have no problem saying, oh yeah, my partner, here she is on the, behind us on the team's call. But for me, I more advocate for. What did Issa Rae say? I'm cheering for everything black. I'm rooting for everything black. Where I'm at now, I think that I'm almost sure I'm probably the first black person and black woman to be on their sales team ever. The company's been around 130-something years. Oh, wow. I don't think they've ever had anybody black and never had and probably they've had women, but not black woman or a black person. And when I came, they had just hired a black guy who's like an outside engineer that goes and demonstrates the equipment. So he's black, I'm black, and then there's a guy inside. I don't know if he knows he's black, but he's black. And then they've since hired more blacks. I'm the only black woman in the company, but they're hiring more black people. And I see, I think sometimes, when they say what your reputation precedes you, and I think that when we're in spaces where we can be excellent because that helps the next person. When they put their resume in and they're being interviewed, they're like, well, dang, you know what? I wonder if they're like this person. I wonder if they're like Denise. Right. If they're like Denise, shoot, we're going to be, we're in this game. So I try to show up as much as I can because I want every black person that's interviewing for a job at my company to get the job because they've seen how I am.
I show up as an advocate for the LGBTQ community. You're not going to say anything negative at all under no circumstance. I don't care who you are. It may be, we're going to talk about this. Whether you're uncomfortable, you said it, I definitely advocate for us. Friend, family, job, because my thing is you teach people how to treat you, So you may do this again and say something negative about this community, but you won't do it in front of me. And maybe you learned a lesson and we had a good talk so that you understand that that's not acceptable. And I advocate for black people in education, as far as educating them on health, and healthcare and self-care and food and diet, and especially diabetes. I'm type 2 diabetic due to some medication that I've been on since I was 6 months old. And I also advocate for the cancer community, mostly breast cancer, but that's how I show up,
I show up in, Ronnie just sparked a thought, kind of came up for me. I show up with trying to, as a only child, now caregiver to my mom,
I've just realized recently that I've been a caregiver since I was probably 10 years old. So I show up more like in a nurturing spirit with people that I come in contact with. And recently what's come up for me is how I can be intentional daily of living a life of legacy. And so when Ronnie mentioned, you know, how she played, you know, how you are at your job and how that's legacy, in my mind, it's legacy work. Because how you perform as well as how you show up and how you step in your power will build additional generational legacy. And so I've been working intentionally with myself because I do spend a lot of time with trying to empower and making and uplifting people and bringing them up to their true selves. But recently I've been trying to be really intentional about digging deeper with myself on how I can show up and it can actually be a legacy to everyone I come in contact with. And I'm also an advocate. I'm an advocate for young women. I'm an advocate for children. And now an advocate for people with disabilities. A lot of times we talk about the beginning of life and then we also talk about the end, but with my mom's situation, we don't really face the in-between. So I've been very intentional on sharing with other people things that they need to get prepared for and getting their stuff or shit in order as a Black community because I've learned so much with being a caregiver for her of what wasn't in place and then what things were in place. So for me, that kind of resonated with me as how I show up in the world in this moment.
I'm still thinking on this question, honestly, because in my context, in terms of like the workplace and different, I feel like sometimes I can be in these bubbles of like Black queer training. You know, it's like that's the bubbles, and in terms of my workplace, you know, it's like mostly Black folks. And so, to your point about the person at the library, I think that I definitely resonate with that because I think there's a way that for young people, there's been we're in a new moment where we actually have representation on media in some respects, and you know, there's just even people that are like 10 years younger than me, I'm like shocked about their high school experience. It's like, oh, y'all can just, that's great. Y'all are really advanced. I had no idea what was going on at that age. So, no, but I think that when you get to the point where you are, like I've had to be silenced or felt unheard in a classroom or felt, you know, walked over in life in various aspects, or like you have to take on certain kinds of labor versus other people are catered to, you know. Then when you get to the point, it's like there can be this element of wanting to take that power back. And so, and I think that that's important for the sense of, to name, you know, where you're coming from in terms of your identity. But sometimes I think it can be, in my experience, it's been an ego-driven move, or maybe that's from that sense of powerlessness. And now it's like you collecting these chips and you're like, boom, 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 I got this going on. Let me speak on this issue. I have some more authority than you because I'm more present in X, Y, and Z. And it becomes this like way of adding things on when that's actually not the reality of how we experience the world, in my experience. And so, yeah, I'm still thinking on the question, but I'm thinking maybe more from the perspective of like, how do we move forward and move towards like what our visions and goals are in this world in the ways that are real and not like for individual opportunistic kind of advancements, you know.
I mean, I think, you know, thanks everyone for your comments. Made me think a lot. One question, Don, when you were saying, you know, you have to teach people how to treat you. And my lived experience, especially when I was younger, that could be exhausting. And what I mean by that is some people, it's like, okay, you do the same thing over and over again. It's just like, why sometimes it's like basic kindness and just treating people. You know, I operate in, you know, a lot of people talk about the golden rule, which I'm not saying anything against the golden rule, but I think a lot in my world around the platinum rule, which is teach people as they want to be treated, right? And it takes time to like you have to allow space for people to name that and not assume like, oh, okay, this is how you want to be treated. But especially as it relates to safety, right? And like my wondering for you, everyone here is, what do you need to feel safe in public? And how do you navigate issues of safety? I know for me, you know, that thing around teaching people how you want to be treated can be exhausting. Sometimes I just want to just be, you know, without like having what I identify as like the emotional labor to like teach somebody how to like even just like just be kind, or you know, just be kind. It's almost like kindness is rare, is what I'm finding in my 40s. Like being kind, being genuine. Like I don't get it, and I don't know. I think for me, feeling safe is, if I'm okay with being uncomfortable, but like if I feel like I'm in danger or someone's gonna continually, even with language, make some remarks, like I'm gonna remove them. I'm even navigating some issues recently around people that are I have connections to, have been using some words that are like very anti-LGBT, and it's like, like I gotta check you on that, but do in a way that we still can be in relationship. But when I think about safety, I've been intentional about not being in spaces where I feel like, especially when I was younger, oh, they want the social justice organizer Melissa over here, or you want the lesbian part Melissa over there, you don't want the poet Melissa over here, oh, you know, and so where I have to, like, and I'm not in spaces anymore, I refuse, to where only one part of my identity is safe enough to show up, right? Which is hard sometimes, because even in 2024, yes, the world has changed, but thinking about this social and political climate we're in right now, there's some places I'm not gonna go to, and I'm not trying to make a stereotype, but XYZ Tennessee by myself to go camping or something, like, no, I'm not doing that, For what? No, I don't want that kind of adventure. I'm good. Like, seriously, right? Like, I don't want that kind of adventure. But yeah.
Call that an adventure?
But yeah, it just makes you think about, like, what do you need to feel safe in public, and how do you navigate issues of safety in your life daily?
I need to feel peace. Like if I feel antsy, or I'm removing myself from the situation. I have to feel inward peace at all times. Like at home, at my aunt's house, at your house, you know, anybody's house. I just if I observe something, you know, that does not look right, you know, I'm like, well, you need to exit, you know. But as far as, I mean, you can tell people's body language. You can tell, I mean, I always say that it's obvious that I'm a lesbian, you know. And I wear a mask when I'm like, most of the time I wear a mask because I'm immune compromised. But, you know, I'll see these looks and I'll give, and I speak to people. That's how I feel people out. I speak to a lot of people. You're not speaking? Okay. So I speak to try to feel the environment. I give looks back, you know, but I just want to feel peace. You know, I'm not here to harm anybody. You know, you giving me that look, okay, maybe I'm not welcome here. But as long as I'm feeling peace, I'm okay, and I'm feeling safe in the environment.
still toggling with the peace thing. And trying to find my inner peace and feeling safe. And I do believe my safe space is solitude. Finding a piece of solitude throughout the day. Whether it's me just taking a step out and taking a breath of fresh air, or shutting the door to my room and turning everything out, or it could be just driving to the park and going to the lake and just watching the water ripples to find my peace. My safety has been stepped on a lot. And with it being stepped on a lot, it's me trying to find that peace wherever I can, even if it's in that moment. And I've talked to myself and always say, let's live in this moment. That peace that's, just try to center myself and like, this is the moment I'm in, this is the space I'm gonna stay right now. But if it's a space where I don't feel safe, I tend to turn it off and I disconnect. So it's hard for me to find that peace, but I'm working on the peace.
I have a lot to say about this, but I'm gonna make it short as possible.
Hey.
No, but I'm saying I gotta do this. Gotta remember everything I have to say. One, it's interesting. I didn't realize that. So we this is interesting. We started couples therapy yesterday, and so it was a lot revealed in that I was like, oh, sheesh. And so in that, it was suggested, you should go to individual, your own therapy, but not from the doctor. So I was like, okay, so now you're a doctor. So, but anyway, so I'm taking it in. So I'm taking in everything, and so so then today it was, I'm talking short, I'm mumbling where they can't hear me. And so I really had to, in my drive here from Murfreesboro, I had to really think about, like, okay, now I see that now, but I didn't see that, I'm not easily offended, but, when you hear things and you're just, you can't not just say, walk out of therapy and be like, boom, all right, so we go to lunch afterwards, like, what's going on? No, it's, you have those things, right? And so in that, I'm like, okay, all right, I can see where I could be passive aggressive and things like that. And I can see where this person says their safe space is this. And I never thought about my safe space until they said what their, safe space was. And I was like, huh. But then I also have to say the flip side is when I have my safe space, which I'm sure everyone in the house knows is, just going in the room, shutting the door and just kind of watch TV and being alone, that gets interrupted, and that's taken as, you okay? You okay? I'm fine. Like, what? Then, no, I'm not okay. You did not 3 times. No, I'm sure. So in this conversation, I feel like that yesterday was good, even not knowing what I was really coming into today. That I realized, I'm like, I have friends and associates, but I don't really go out too tough. I mean, I go to church, and then, we'll do some couple things, but we're in the house a lot. So it gave me a chance to say, you know what? And as we talked about going to anywhere, I'm about to do me more. Like, 'cause when I first came here, everybody who knew, you, Melissa, y'all didn't even know I had a girlfriend. Y'all was all like, you're lying. Melissa knew because I met Melissa before I even moved out here. We met in Atlanta. But people was all like, yeah, okay. I'm like, man, she's just at home. I said, home. Okay. And so I'm realizing, between yesterday and today that I do need a space or an outlet, that I didn't realize I needed. And also in that flip side of that, all last week, I was in Detroit for work. And I was with one of my very good friends, my daughter's godmother. And her and I were talking prior to the session. And she's going to therapy. So she's like, just, go into it like this. So then afterwards, I was just, And she was like, just call me. I said, well, she's not here, so let's talk. So she was even giving me advice that I probably don't take, my time to be in a safe space for me and to let my own thing marinate and understand. And that I do need to express how someone needs to treat me and not, what we said, treat people how you want to be treated. Well, that's not how they want to be treated. That's how you want to treat them. It's, express that. So in my personal life, this was good for me today because I'm realizing a lot about me and being a person that I thought my bucket was full Monday through Friday because I'm always traveling, I'm always meeting people. I'm, talking to different people all the time, different in and out of different manufacturing plants, and doing all these things. I'm like, oh, my bucket's full. Well, my bucket's probably not full. My bucket's probably needs to be filled with some other type of things, maybe on the weekend. And then on the flip side of that, talking about a safe space, dealing with white men all the time that make decisions and make big $1 million decisions for companies, I realized there's probably a hint of things that they might say or do that might not be a comfort to me. That I don't. Then I say, do Ronnie come out and go off, or do I think, okay, I'm representing a company? And so what I have been doing lately a lot is declining those. Hey, let's go have a drink. You know what? No, thank you. I already have some plans, but I appreciate you because, I'm not going to be in your personal, we're not going to have personal relations if I don't feel comfortable in our business meeting. Them not outright said anything about, but you just kind of get a feel for, people. I don't need you to be, we don't need to be friends. We need to build a relationship for this particular thing. Outside of this particular thing, I'm good. So I'm learning more to say no on those type of situations that I don't feel too safe in the business world.
Yeah, I think this is a very hard question because it's like all we are surrounded by, not all we're surrounded by, but we are surrounded by so much violence on every level. Like interpersonally, we're dealing with it in our communities, in going outside on the streets. The police are out there getting all this funding, getting all these training facilities to practice, terrorizing our communities, and then what's going on in the world. So I think that safety, when I think about that, especially in the context of the political work that I do, it's a hard one because it's like at the end of the day we're gonna have fear, from just walking down the street sometimes, and our work is to be out in communities and in public spaces, but then also we're met with just for example all the onslaught of legislation that is working to criminalize existence of trans people and queer people, and then also legislation that's policing our bodies and reproductive capacities, and that's the world we live in right now. And then to the point around, I'm not trying to go to this rural area in Tennessee past really any hour, go camping. We're set up so that if we actually wanted to organize to build power and strategies to fight against these legislations, that's exactly what you would have to do. It's build coalition with people that have also been spewed a bunch of mess and nonsense about who we are. So we're set up against each other, even though at the end of the day we all are subject to the will and control of the people in power. And so it's a hard one, I think, this question. But I know that at least within song we have this vision of free from fear, and in terms of the organizing work and campaign work that we do, we always want to center, acknowledging that fear exists, but thinking about freedom beyond that reality, and in the spaces that we create for ourselves, trying to build as much of a sense of safety and care that is possible in the context that we live in. So, I know you had mentioned masking and how that can even feel unsafe because it's I'm wearing a mask in a grocery store, you're welcome. I don't know why you're mad at me. But that's a whole new element of safety of am I even safe to go to this, I want to go to this Beyonce concert or whatever, but then I got to go home and take care of my mom who's sick, having to negotiate these kind of things is just, it's just increasingly complex, like this question of safety in our worlds, but I think at least in terms of our own communities, as much as we can model, allowing space for people to bring their whole selves, having safe practices in terms of coming together, trying, and on that level, and trying to scale up from there as we are inherently putting ourselves in danger each day to try to change some things more broadly across the world. That's where I'm coming at it.
When I think about safety, what came up for me was thinking about my attachment style. Attachment styles. I am anxious attached. I have an anxious attachment style, but I'm leading into secure attachment. And my wife is an avoidant. And so when I'm constantly leaning in, she's constantly pulling away. And we have been very intentional within the last 3 years of creating emotional safety within our home, about learning one another with this new understanding of attachment styles, as well as like how we make safe space for ourselves as individuals as well as a collective. And so when I think of safety, what comes up for me was like how I create safety in my home, like within myself, which is a home, but then also within my actual house, like home. And so recently we have really been doing a phenomenal job with one another. And so since that's been happening, I've been kind of like on edge, like, okay, when's the next ball gonna drop? Because of that anxious, that anxious stuff. Like, 'cause she typically is like, when she feels unsafe, she pulls, like she's out. And it's like to the point where when she does come back, it's like, dang, babe, you done lost about 10 pounds. Like, she literally is in the same house with me, but does not see me. And then where with me, I'm more of like reaching out to people, trying to get out the house, like on the go, like leaning in as much to whomever I can touch. And so with this newfound awareness, I have been practicing sitting with myself more, pouring into myself more, and really it being true and authentic, not because of where my wife is at, but because this is what I also deserve to make this space with myself of safety. I have grown up with very adverse childhood experiences, a lot of trauma, a lot of exposure to things, and had to grow up very quickly. And so with all of those things, I understand where that anxious attachment comes from, but like I said, it's still a constant evolving process of like developing my own internal emotional safety, and then also being able to support other people as they're transitioning into their safe space. So that's where I'm at. So I have to share.
I just want to add one more thing, kind of piggybacking off of what you said, all three of you actually. What has helped me with my safety is that mindful self-compassion meditation. So I got certified last year. It was for pain management is why I initially did it through a counselor, and I did it for 6 months, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. I hated it. And after the 6 months of meeting with a counselor and 12 other people every Tuesday, I was like, what am I going to do like when this is over with? And so I got the certification from that, not the company that was helping me, but through the organization that developed the mindful self-compassion. And I started meditating. I was meditating a little bit, but not like that. Now I meditate twice a day and sometimes more. And then I'm also a Course in Miracles student, which teaches you that not the only way, but the way to life is to love everybody, pray for everybody, even the neighbor that's playing her music at 2 o'clock in the morning, keep praying for her. Don't go over there and punch her door in, pray for Trump, you know, pray for all the things that are going on in the world. And so I've been a Course in Miracles student since 2008. However, I really, really, really have honed in on it for the past 3 years when COVID started. So between meditation and a Course in Miracles and, you know, just praying for everybody, we do these little workbook lessons every day. Today's lesson was the only law is God's law, you know, and it's just like, that's it, you know, just being loving and peaceful, not blowing my horn at the person who, you know, was doing whatever they do, texting and driving in the car next to you. You know, it's even not even like looking over at them, you know, like, I want to see who's in that car, you know, so
Yeah.
it really has helped. It has helped. Not saying that I don't get, you know, sidetracked with some things that people do that I feel that are stupidity and ignorance, but that has helped me feel safe, because if I'm in a situation, I can stop and have a meditation and say, may I be at peace, may I be at ease, may I be healthy, may I be happy, you know, may I be kind, you know, just something simple like that. And it can really calm me down. And so that has kept me safe versus me blowing the horn and banging on your window or just like, what the hell are you doing? Reacting, you know? So that has kept me safe. It's kept all of us safe, you know?
Right.
My neighbor has been like taking me through it, and I was at my mailbox yesterday and she walked out the house and I was like, hey, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm thinking like, you waving at Adrian like that? And she was yelling outside your window intentionally, you know, and it's just like, yeah, like I'm just gonna keep trying it because it's better than, you know, what could possibly happen. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Think about, well, one before I get to these maybe final two questions, you kind of lifted up something around health, and I'm just curious, you know, what do you do right now, what practice or practices, I think some of you already mentioned, do you do right now to keep you grounded, to keep you healthy? Just curious.
I can be real quick. I typically make sure that I take my medication. It's just that simple. I am diagnosed with ADHD. I wasn't diagnosed until 32, 33 years old. So just as simple as making sure I take my medication daily. I also do a guided meditation. I utilize the Insight Timer app, and I just listen and sit with my hands on my heart. And so I do about that. I do it about 10 minutes, but I'm trying to work on getting better at doing it daily. But I mostly do those and practice those in order to go to sleep. And so for me, just really basic hygiene, like making time for basic hygiene. Like I'm always like rushing and moving in a fast, you know, space, and now we're in this era where it's like, you gotta wash your face, you gotta do all these, you know, use these serums and all this stuff to yourself. So like making sure that I'm like practicing daily, like those just basic hygienic things, as well as making sure I'm eating. I have a tendency, I think because of my medication, but then also just because I'm not slowing down, I have a tendency to not eat enough. And so then when I am eating, I'm eating, you know, things that are not the best for me. So just being constantly open to sharing space for myself with that, but then also having grace with that too, because I do have a lot going on. So practicing giving myself grace daily with all the things that I'm juggling, and then also making sure, as Melissa tells me all the time, to delegate as much as I can with my community and people that are around me. So that's what keeps me grounded.
People thinking I'll be brief. I mean, I think being active, you know, kind of doing that again where I work out, do something to stimulate my body every day, whether it's weights or walking, or using games like, you know, Nintendo to do dancing games or something. And then I think for me, the power of recognizing like where my energy is going to, and knowing that I can say no. Mm-hmm. And no is a complete sentence, and that I don't have to say yes to everything, because I have a tendency to spread myself thin across passions. So say a combination of those things. Dawn's smirking me because she's always like, even today I was like, oh, I'm gonna go work out and I'm gonna go to the farmer's market. And
Way too much.
she was just like, before you have this event at your house. I was like, well, maybe I want to do that. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I didn't because when she got here, I just got out of the shower. So I was like, hell no. Like,
You going to the farmer's market? Like this morning, girl. After she had did like 9 million other things through the week. Like, I was like, yeah, listen, no.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go. Meditation in the morning, yoga 30 minutes in the morning. My patio is like my favorite spot in the summertime. I'm a cactus grower and I take all my plants outside and I will just go out there and sit and watch the birds, having my bird feeders up in the summertime. I don't really watch TV. If I do, it's like maybe Chopped or some cooking show maybe once or twice a week. Listening to music, singing, because singing just brings me comfort. Saying no, being active, like I must do yoga 7 days a week because it helps me with flexibility. If I go to the doctors and they say, well, I have a herniated disc in my neck and in my back right now, and they've been trying all these different things, and yesterday I went to pain management. He was like, we can get you oxycodone and we can get you Percocet. You gotta come for every 3 weeks. And I'm thinking, dude, like, and he thought that I was the one. Like, he was like, yeah, she want these pills. No, I don't want these pills. And he's like, yeah, well, drug test you, make sure they're in your system, make sure you're not taking any other drugs. There's 1 out of 10 people, blah, 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 and this and that. But anyways, advocating for yourself. Just because they say that you need to take this because it looks like you have high cholesterol or whatever, look at your numbers, look at your reports, Google, research, don't trust what a doctor is saying. Saying no, like, self-care, making sure that I floss my teeth every day, little simple things, because I don't want dentures. It's just so many different things that you have to think about. But the biggest thing for me is my diet. I was telling my aunt, if I didn't eat the way that I did, because I do have some health issues, I'd be in worse shape. Making sure that you eat healthy, you're taking care of yourself, because somebody may not be able to take care of you. You have to take care of you. So that's my end goal, is knowing that I have to take care of my mental wellness and my overall health, So at the end of the day, making sure that you have a plan in effect so that you can manage all those things, I don't want to, have somebody having to do your banking and all, you got to be stable. You got to be mentally stable to make sure that you have all those ducks in a row. So that's what I do for me as far as health.
Well, my health, I paint. Especially when I feel like I'm going through a situation or something's going on. I paint my emotions through paintings and art, 3D art, photos. I've acquired some plant babies, and they're growing and flourishing. And every time I walk by them, I talk to them. Hey, how you doing? Good morning. I talk to my plant babies. Another thing that I've taken up is, as soon as I wake up in the morning, because that's the hour that I feel like I can truly be relaxed, because I just came out of a resting period, is the time that I meditate. So I meditate first thing in the morning. I sit up, I don't lay back down in the bed. If you lay back in the bed, it's done, it's a wrap. You're gonna go to sleep. But I'll sit up in the bed and I'll just sit there and meditate for like 10, 15 minutes and just kind of ground myself for the day that's to come. Because typically the night that night before, it's like, okay, this is what I got to do tomorrow, this, the other. And just to ground myself in the morning and saying, okay, I got this. This is where I'm gonna start. But right now, I'm gonna start and I'm think about being grateful for this moment and waking up and being grateful for this moment. And so that's some of the things that I would do for my mental health. Now, my physical health, I gotta work on that. But it's coming back. But it's all part about getting myself in a space of being happy, getting my space of being at peace. And once I'm at peace and once I'm happy, the movement flows.
For me, I've been going through pain, back pain, hip pain, in and out of doctors, trying to figure out, what their thoughts are. I know, just know your body, losing weight. So I've been working on that and just eating a little bit more healthier. I don't think I've seen it in the poundage probably, but I was told today they could see it in my face. I was like, okay. And I had to receive it, yes. That's probably another thing. I don't receive things from people too well. I don't know where that comes from, but that's just something that I probably need to do more. And I thank you for that. And so I've kind of working on what I eat, try to eat healthier. Especially I travel a lot for work. So one thing I've been doing very conscious of, because anybody who's traveled for work knows they give you a card, and most of the times they don't really care as long as you ain't crazy with it. So, previous times I've just done whatever. I've really been conscious about having salads for lunch. And eating enough or when I'm full, be done and wrap it up, and they'll be looking at me like, if I'm with somebody, they're like, oh, you gonna take that back to the hotel room? Yeah, because I might eat this for my dinner, and I don't need to, to do anything else. So, so that is being conscious of what I put in my mouth, and also, and probably need to work on what I need to what I'm putting in my head, and as well as my mouth and into my body. Period. I also had started stretch class, so I've done that. This is my third month, so that has helped out a lot because I realized I was not flexible at all. I went from like a 45 degree, if that. I might be more, maybe in 70.
Okay.
So at the last 2 months. So, and I'm enjoying that. I'm a massage. I love a good massage, but I really like this. And I'm like, this might be right neck and neck with a massage because you just relax. They do stuff. They tell you to tell them when they need to stop, but they're stretching you. So I'm really enjoying that. And my number one thing for self-care that I've been doing for a long time is I'll take a bath, let that water get warm, put that hot water, I'll be in the bathtub forever. I love a good bath. So that's where I think a lot of times that's just a time for me to just kind of reflect and just be by myself. And just, that's me, a bath.
Well, I'm just taking notes because I'm a work in progress for sure. And I think coping wise, like I admire you because I'm on that screen all the time. I'm watching reality show, just jump because during the day I'm like reading, like study, like it's a cope. I get it. But in terms of what I do is I do work out 3 times a week at least to lift. Which I like, but I need to work on some of these back pains I got, so I might tap in for some support, some yoga. And then music is definitely a big one for me. I play the saxophone, just not well, but I play it, but it's more about the expression, and so it teaches me, I don't see myself as someone who likes working with my words a lot, but when I can play the music and get into the sound, like it's a very sacred thing for me. So that helps me to just reground and all of that. And then being in community, I'm very introverted and not the most social person, but actually I love people and I love being around people and just,
being around the laughter, the singing, the games, the cutting up, like all of that, that actually helps a lot too. Because I think sometimes we're forced to be very individualistic, think about ourselves, but actually where we get energy and connection a lot of times is through other people. So.
Did you go to this? Well, that means you're gonna have to have more game nights. Have you ever been to game nights? Yeah. We need to get game nights going.
I have two more questions in a way I might combine them. Thank y'all so much for being here. This has been awesome. First part of the question, are you currently mentoring or being mentored by a younger or older member of the LGBT community? What role does, if anything, does mentoring play in your life? Can you talk a little bit about what your relationship to mentoring is, and are you mentored by an older Black, lesbian, or queer, or a younger Black, lesbian, or queer, and what does that look like for you?
I'm going to answer that question. I am not mentoring or being mentored or have ever. I'm going to say when I met my partner, she actually was, her mother started dating women when her mother started dating women when she was 16, but like was probably a lover more of people and of love. And so when she met her dad, you know, they married, but they married for, I don't even think they was married for a year. And she was pregnant with her. And so since then, she's never seen a male in the home, really. So she was raised in an environment with two women. And then, you know, her mother's been, you know, multiple relationships. But so in that, when we met and I started kind of interacting and mingling with her family, I wouldn't say her mother is a mentor, but her mother is a connector of people. So it's nothing like just going, like when I go to Detroit for work, you know, I might go by her house, but it's almost like someone there. And they always are in our community that I'm just listening to stories and things and how things were and how, you know, kind of lucky we are, you know. So there are some turning now, going back to some crazy stuff, but I guess at the time I didn't really think that it was mentoring per se, but just listening to the stories and the history. And I know you know, Melissa knows her godmother is someone who travels all over the country and has conversations with different groups. So she's always in that. So even in that, you know, my partner, just listening to some of the stories and things that she's seen over her years as well. But it's interesting because I think if I was to say that I had a mentor, it probably would have been my mother's brother, who was it's kind of weird. Like, you know, I was secretly gay as a little kid, and he's 10 years older than me. He was, you know, we knew, you know, there was no doubt that he was gay. But, you know, like as he got older and he kind of moved away from everyone, we kind of did the same thing. We moved closer to each other, but really didn't. Matter of fact, he won a Grammy this year.
Oh,
yeah. So that was a great, you know, great thing. And it's funny because he and I were talking about my mother. My mother's always been like I would say, one of the reasons why I probably didn't come out too is my mother kind of always bashed him. So anytime she was mad about something, this, that, and the other, and I'm like, as a kid, little kid, so I probably was like internalized, like I could never, you know, really come out because she gonna say these things about me. But he and I were having a conversation recently, and he was saying that, me and your mother were talking, and she said, you know, do you date black men? Because you were never around. And he was like, I was appalled because his partner of a long time is this white man. And so he's like, I was really appalled that she said that because basically all my friends are black. He said, all my friends are black. We're all black excellence. And I don't know where your mother's getting because she's saying this. because this is the only partner that he's kind of brought around, you know. So, but in that, I realize more and more, I'm like, you know, maybe he is my mentor. Maybe he is we're really, really connected a lot more, like I said, within the last 3 or 4 years. You know, we've really been connected. Like, there's nothing for him to text me like, hey, I was just thinking about you. You know, whereas when we were much younger and probably not, the environment is a lot better now for us to be, you know, who we are. And I think maybe that back maybe 10, 15 years ago, you know, maybe he felt a little bit weird to talk to me about stuff, and I probably felt a little bit weird to talk to him about things. So, yeah.
Similar to you, I had a mentoring program for youth for like 10 years around job readiness, but as far as like in my personal life, I can't say I've actually had like a formal mentor. There have been different people who have, you know, made an impact on my life I can go to for advice, but I'm really also recognizing the power now of, I need a mentor that's younger than me, maybe even 15, 20 years younger than me, because I'm really an analog girl in the digital world. Like, that's real for me. You know, I'd rather write a research paper about technology than to learn code and all that. It's a little Greek to me, but the world we live in, if you're not like technology savvy, like, you could be lost. And so, like I was saying to someone about, I need to pay someone. I'm not looking for a job, but just, you know, like, just working on my presence in terms of LinkedIn and all that. And like, I need to hire somebody. Like, I'm gonna hire somebody, just use chat.
GPT.
Yeah, use that. It's like, why do that, you know, or whatever. And so I need to find a mentor to school me on technology, keep me hip, as they say.
For me, I haven't had a formal mentor, but I would say that my great aunt, she's 93, and so my grandfather, her brother, raised me, and they were a year apart, and so that's where I got dropped off at on Friday nights, which was cool, you know, because we would do different things. She's Catholic, and so we would go to mass, and you know, she loved to cook and bake, and just a whole different environment. And then I'd say my other aunt, who lived in the household with me, she is 64. She's been a mentor to me, and I've been a board member with ZAMI NOBLA less than a year. Mary Ann, who started ZAMI NOBLA, I've learned so much from her, just how she operates and how she cares for people, and just lots of different things that she's doing. Grant writing. I mean, she's here, she's there, she's helping people. She's on this call. She's doing this. She's doing that. You know, so she's been a mentor to me. But yeah, I mean, I never really thought about actually going out finding a mentor. You know, but I've had people that have mentored me, and they may not even. I mean, my great aunt knows that she has, because I tell her all the time. But yeah, it's great having a mentor in your life, you know, whether it's planned or not planned.
Makes you think of this question around even today. Like, let's say, so I'm 44. I'm curious in our ages. I'm 44.
52.
38.
52.
52.
And 29.
And 29, right? And so, what can we do to foster stronger relationships across different generations in the Black same-gender loving community? Like, what can we do to make sure that there's not a gap? Because I'm intentional where I might hang out with somebody one day that's in their 70s, and then the next day a 20-year-old or whatever. But like, I feel like we don't really have a lot of spaces where they're multi-generational in the Black lesbian community. So like, what do you think we can do to change that? And then the last part of the question is, you know, what legacy do you want to hope to leave with future generations of Black same gender loving community. So one is, how can we make sure that just like today we're intentional on having multi-generational spaces and Black same gender loving communities? And then like what legacy do you want to leave generations? I mean, so as you're thinking, I think about it's important for us to be intentional in having these spaces. So it's not don't invite such and such. You know, they're not gonna get it. Like, you know, you don't know what you might not get from somebody who's, 20 or 10 years older than you. And then the other piece I think about is, I think about who I would have needed when I was younger. And more than anything, it's just like, trust yourself early on. If I could think about any legacy that will leave future generations, trust yourself. Like, don't question who you are. Like, really, really lean into what your gut is telling you. Like, if I would have known that at an earlier age, who knows where I would be now,
So partially the legacy, I'm going to answer that one first, that I could say is, again, to second what you said about just trusting yourself intuitively, but then also just remaining flexible and curious. Like we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is that like sometimes we become so like concrete in the way that we are in this world and how we exist, but more it's like so much bigger. Like things are so much bigger and things are always evolving. So just meeting each other more, I think, and creating this space more ongoing and consistently and ongoing and ongoing and ongoing, like not stopping the momentum, because I do feel like this has really made me feel like really good. Like I have never been in a space like this ever in my entire existence of being a part of the community. And so just building off of that and just continuing to, like I said, resonate with what I feel and how I experience life and what my lived experience looks like is okay, and being able to meet other people in that same way. So I know that's kind of like an intertwined response, but that's what came up for me with the question.
Thank everybody for taking time, out of your schedules, and just to be here, be present, and really speaking from your lived experience. I know I got a lot out of it. I hope that you all did too. Definitely want to thank ZAMI NOBLA, the National Organization for Black Lesbians on Aging, as well as Being Black Emotional Mental Health, for sponsoring this event. And I know I'm inspired. I'm like, how can we keep this going? And I want to have a conversation around parenting or, career choices. I see there being more opportunities from here, and y'all ain't gotta go home. No, I'm just kidding. There's more. Also, thank you to Lisa Dowdy, and also to Lisa Elliott, our videographer. We look forward to seeing your finished product. And I don't know, anybody else want to say anything?
I want to say one thing. Do you guys also, you're aware that these conversations are also going on right now in Atlanta and in Wilmington, which is just like so cool. Like, yeah. So that's all I wanted to say.
I don't know why I've been saying Charlotte, but yeah, Wilmington. So, yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much.